All right, in this video, we'll be looking at Echinoderm basics. Echinoderm is it just stands for spiny skin. So these are things that have spiny skin. These are like sea stars and other relatives. Sea stars, brittle stars, some other things that have that sort of like sand dollars and other things like that. All echinoderms are free living marine animals. They are unsegmented. So this is kind of a step back as far as evolution is concerned, but it doesn't really affect them. They have pentaradial symmetry. Again, kind of a step back from that bilateral symmetry. They have a rounded body, a cylindrical body, or they are star shaped like you see here, but they all have that pentaradial, which means 5-part symmetry. They're all triploblastic. They have an extensive kind of coelom, so a very well formed body cavity. You can see here from this picture, the body cavity is pretty plain to see. Um, they have something, and so you can see here some other um, tracks or other traits as well. Full digestive tract, all of those kind of things that you would, if you look at it, you think it's really simple, but there's a lot of complexity going on here, even though there is quite a bit of simplicity as well. There's something called the water vascular system, and the water vascular system serves as its circulatory system. But it also is a way to use these things called tube feet, which we'll get to in a second, and the tube feet are used for several different things. But it basically is like a little hydraulic system for the internal structure of this organism. One thing that makes echinoderms set apart from everything that we've talked about so far is something called the endoskeleton. And the endoskeleton is an internal living skeleton. And so, as opposed to an exoskeleton, which we'll talk about in the arthropod unit, or a cuticle that produces a shell or something like that, like mollusks, this is an internal skeleton that is actually living. And so, it's living tissue. It can be repaired. It can be replaced. This is like our own skeletons as well. Um, the spines are created using just like calcareous secretions. Remember, calcareous is like chalk or like calcium deposits. And so, they have a pretty extensive skeletal system that gives them structure and support, just like any internal skeleton would do that. Again, complete digestive system. I think I said that, but you wouldn't think that to look at this organism, but they have that. A lot of them are predatory as well, which we'll get into when we talk more about them. And they, again, something when you look at them, you don't think this is a predatory animal, but it is. So tube feet. The tube feet are allow for a locomotion, so it allows them to move. They use them to feel around in their environment, so they use them for sensory kind of structure, and then they also use them to for predation. They'll use them to attach to things, to pull things apart, like mollusks. They eat mollusks like clams and oysters and that sort of thing. And again, it acts like little suction cups, but here you can see them extended. They're kind of feeling around their environment. And here you get a good picture of that, those spiny, calcareous things that are created by their skin as well. They have a kind of like a fragmentation, you could say. I use the word regeneration here, but it's kind of fragmentation. Um, each part has its own autonomy. And so if you want to go back here to this picture again, there's kind of this brain, this circular kind of brain structure here. And as long as that remains intact, this one arm can actually regenerate all the other ones as long as the energy is there to do it. And so you can see here, two of the arms are being regenerated because these three are intact. And so each individual arm has some autonomy to itself and is able to regenerate the others. And so that gives them some flexibility. If you can just lose an arm or so and still be okay. As far as sexual reproduction, the sexes are separate. They have external fertilization, which means fertilization happens outside the body. Their larvae have bilateral symmetry, which connects them with things that are later to come in their evolutionary line, because this is probably the last step off before chordates. And so you see here the bilateral symmetry. It looks like a little costume or something that has like those LED lights on it, but it's not. It's a baby starfish. Um, no excretory organs to speak of, so they will use their water vascular system to do excretory function.